everyone. Welcome to Finding Joy in the Mundane. I am your host, Aya Nichols, and we have an extra special guest, Dr. Jennifer Jacobs, here to talk about Connect Our Kids, and I'm really excited.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us because I've been wanting you on this show, and I've been wanting to ask you so many different questions, and now you're here, so you're stuck. What's so interesting is that you are a co-founder of Connect Our Kids, and everyone in my show knows that I have been involved with Connect Our Kids in some way or another, and it's just because I really believe in your mission to ensure that kids are connected with family, whatever kind of family. Mm-hmm. And I love that because it took me a long time and a struggle to maintain my own family connections. So seeing that someone else cared, was great.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Connect Our Kids didn't start till 2017, and it's a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. And you use both data and technology to create this software that helps other kids connect with their lost biological parents, lost foster parents, any kind of connection, period. Mm-hmm. And we always make connections throughout our life that mean something. And because of life, we lose it. So I think it's amazing to have something though that helps us reconnect back to it. So let me just get this straight. You have a bachelor's in physics, a master's in environmental engineering, and a PhD in nuclear engineering.
Yes.
And you went into welfare? Children?
Not initially.
Not initially. No, you did not. First, you did serve in the Army in multiple roles, one of them being a nuclear operations officer.
Yes.
And you were also a White House fellow.
Yes. And
you helped Homeland Security create solutions for our border safety and control.
Yes.
And you're a presidential leadership scholar.
In 2022, yes.
That's a lot of work.
Also a lot of fun.
That's a lot of fun. Yeah. I can't imagine all the different things you would have had to work on and see. And I think that's so interesting that you get to bring all of that into Connect Our Kids. You have all that knowledge mm-hmm. and get to use it to help other families. So my question is, what got you into foster care welfare mm-hmm. world?
Yeah, this is a good question. I always read articles about foster care because I used to ride the school bus with kids who were fostered at the farm at the end of the dead-end road I grew up on in mid-Michigan. And I thought at the time how different their life experience was from mine and didn't really know what to do with that. I went into the Army to math and science, and it seemed like foster care was in that messy social sciences over there.
It's a messy world.
The physicist Neil deGrasse Tyson says when human beings enter the equation, things go nonlinear. And that's why physics is easy and social science is hard.
I love that though.
Yes.
Just because, at least you know what you're signing up for.
That's right. So for a long time, I didn't see anything that I really had to offer in the social sciences space. And so I stuck to the easier world of physics.
Did you want to offer something for the social science?
No, that's a good question. I guess it bothered me for a long time. Having always known my family and how important that was to me, I didn't understand. Someone growing up without their family, I didn't understand what that would be like.
Yeah.
And so that thought stayed with me. And as I would come across articles about foster care, I would read them, maybe trying to get a better understanding of something that I felt I didn't understand.
Yeah.
So then I was going about my career largely in nuclear counterproliferation, worrying about nuclear material being available and in the hands possibly of terrorists or others. And in January of 2011, I was pregnant with our third child. And I read an article Time magazine did about foster care. They had a whole spread in an issue that month. And it talked about something that was actually working in foster care, which was that specialists know how to connect any foster child with family.
Yeah.
What they do is instead of trying to convince someone who's seeking to grow their family through adoption, most likely they're looking for a baby or a toddler. Many of the youth who age out of foster care are not what they're seeking.
Yeah.
Adopting a teenager is less common. It does happen, as you
It is very hard.
but it's less common. And so what specialists have learned is that the way to find a family for any child in foster care is to look for their own people.
Yeah.
Whatever that might mean. Largely it means their family, but it can also mean neighbors, teachers, coaches, faith community, people who have a connection to that child, because the people who are interested in a teenager who needs a family is that child's own people.
Yeah.
And so this article was talking about how specialists do that, and that they do it by building out a network of sometimes of dozens, sometimes hundreds of people connected to that child. And as I was reading that, I thought, well, one, this makes sense to me. Yeah. If I were in foster care or any child I loved were in foster care, I would want this to happen. I would want them to be connected to everybody who might care about them. And two, I realized that this is actually very similar to what I already knew intelligence analysts do to find and track terrorist networks.
Interesting.
And so that was where the two worlds collided.
Yeah.
And I
finally found how you can help.
Yes. When I was reading it, I thought, well, this is a very large data challenge.
Yeah.
And now this world of social science has come into my space. And I understand this space, and I understand that this is very hard. It's once you start trying to put a lot of data together, that becomes challenging from a data perspective. I had been searching for nuclear materials in a haystack the size of the globe.
Goodness.
And that is hard.
Yeah. To say the least.
And so this challenge is that they're trying to find someone in a haystack the size of several hundred people to be a child's family. Yeah. And that seemed to me both challenging and doable.
Yeah.
And so that led me down the path of trying to understand how I can make it more doable, more scalable.
Yeah. Wow. I appreciate you explaining all that, because it like makes sense to me how like the two intersected. And I love your heart. Like, I love how you just want to help people like in any way you possibly can. And you have this like amazing ability to be able to gather data and like sort through it. Because if you're looking for a needle in a haystack of a globe, then you have like sharp eye ability to like detect people. And those are the people we need. Like, we have a lot of social workers and child welfare professionals, even though they do their amazing work, they usually come in wanting to be social workers. And they usually come in not understanding fully what they're going into. So when they come into it, they realize all these challenges where you can't find the other family. You can't help them connect. You can't do anything really other than just help the child be taken care of as much as possible. But you come along, you knew exactly what you were getting into, but you came with a solution. And that's what I really love. Like, you came and you said, okay, data and finding families is hard. Here's how we can help. And that's what I really love most, because you genuinely just want to help. And I think your software would be incredible for every social services in this nation to use. I really do think that, because one, it is so much better than just blindly looking for people. And two, like, you genuinely have the heart. So another question I had is, what do you think are the differences and advantages of using Connect Our Kids versus using other traditional ways, or even social media? Because you can try and find people on Facebook or something. I will say from experience, it is hard. So I have some sort of bias from user experience. So I just wanted to get your perspective on it.
So what Connect Our Kids tools do is really take all those social media searches that you might do separately and does them all quickly at once and pushes that information to you. You might think about it as the difference between going to a library and just looking at books individually and trying to find the one you're interested in versus going to, well, this is dating me, but going to the card catalog and looking there to find out where is the book that you need.
Yeah.
So you can do the same thing that Connect Our Kids is doing, say manually, but by going to each separate site. And I actually did that originally as I was kind of trying out the idea. How much work is this? And I ended up with 30 tabs open, and I spent, so 2011, when I read the article, to 2017 is 6 years.
Yeah.
So it didn't happen instantly.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen easily. Spent a lot of nights and weekends trying to understand what I didn't understand. And I'm still learning. I've learned an enormous amount through this whole process and continue to do so. But one of the things that I wanted to understand was, how hard is it? And so I had 30 tabs open. I had multiple sheets of paper. I was drawing family trees and diagrams. Connect Our Kids tools help to make that all happen in one central location.
Wow.
They help you to remember what you were doing when you last got interrupted so that you can come back. And the first half hour I would spend when I tried to do it by hand, I like to say, is remembering what I was doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's obviously very inefficient. So our tools are just a way to do all of those steps much more efficiently, much more quickly, and sometimes doing things that you didn't think to do, looking at sites you might not think to look at. So it's literally like the card catalog or the resource guide in a library doesn't have any new information in it, but it is crucial to finding.
It gathers all the already information that exists.
Right, in one place, and helps you orient yourself and do that work.
Yeah.
So, but all the information is out there in the books.
Yeah.
You just need to find it. So that's what Connect Our Kids does. The other thing it does that's different from you going to each social media site separately and you keeping your family tree or your map on a piece of paper or even on a tool on your computer is that it allows a team to work together. One of the things that we learned as we were researching this is how impactful the turnover is in the space. And I've even had social workers tell me that they do a whole family tree on our tools. And then a social worker told me that she was looking through the filing cabinet one day and she found the family tree that the social worker before her had done on paper a year ago.
Wow.
And so all the work that social worker had done was for nothing because it got stuck in a file when she left and someone had to redo all the work.
Wow.
So once a team goes onto Connect Our Kids tools and does the work there, it's even if the social worker leaves, the work is owned by the team.
And it saves
and so it stays there and the team can always access it.
Oh my goodness, I love that. I was a case manager for a little bit for kids. And the caseload is insane to the point where trying as a human being, trying to keep them all in your mind, all their information and being expected to is crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do it.
You can't. I mean, their job is impossible. They just do the best that they can every day. So having a tool like this that would help them, I think would be incredible, because then they're not spending so many hours doing all of that research and just being able to connect with that kid, or at least figuring out what their actual foster care placement is happening, how they're being treated, how they are genuinely doing. Because they're too busy on the other spectrum trying to figure out and do all the work that you've already done to come to the same conclusion. And if I can't imagine if I had all that, then I would find freedom in it. So that's why I think that having your software is so important, because it really would allow other welfare professionals to be there for their children more, because we do have high caseloads. And I have been struggling this back and forth with welfare about high caseloads, how to lower it, how to manage it, how to do all these different things, because yes, there are high caseloads because we have a lot of children. Like we have over 400,000 kids in foster care. And how are you supposed to manage all of that? Even though you yourself are managing all of them, you're managing at least 20, 25, up to 40 in some states. So I think having something like that to subsidize would be really great.
Yeah, one of the things, I agree. One of the things that I've learned a lot about in the last few years in particular is the concept of relational health. And for those who haven't heard of it, relational health is the health and strength of one's relationships. And it's been shown to affect everything about us. It affects our physical health. It affects our emotional, our mental health. It affects our lifespan. And relational health can be destroyed if you take a child away from their people. It may be that they are in a dangerous situation and something has to be done. If that's the case, then it's important to keep that child safe. But a lot of times it's easy for people who are being crushed in the system as workers to only notice and think about physical health. And relational health is harder to see than, for example, bruises or broken bones, but it can be as or more impactful to the child's overall health in their life. So one of the things that we try to emphasize with some of the training and education that we've started recently, the course that we have out now, Why Relationships Matter, is to start addressing that around one of the ways that we could have lower caseloads is to have fewer children in foster care safely. And to do that, we really need our child welfare workers freed to help families with more tools than the one tool of removing children. And I don't know how many accounts I've read in which children or heard folks who've experienced foster care talk about the real challenges that their families faced, often their mothers, but that the question, why didn't someone just help my mother, is often asked, and there's usually no good answer. So
that's a question I have asked myself over and over again for the past 20 years. Why didn't just someone, what my life would have been like if someone just helped my mother take care of us? And we were us specifically, me and my sisters were in such a dangerous position. So even if they were to have helped my mother, there were other circumstances that would have harmed us. So I understand that as an older person, but that didn't stop me from questioning back then, why didn't just someone come and help my mom? Like, it makes the most perfect sense, but at the same time, there is nothing like that. So the fact that you even asked yourself that question.
Well, and you talk in your book about hearing your mom crying when your sisters were taken, and not knowing anything more than really what I've read in your book, it made me feel like your mother was not cared for as a person. And unfortunately, in child welfare, a lot of times the biological parent is considered a villain. And we don't help villains. We punish and we imprison. We push them aside, but we don't help them. So if the mother, we'll just say the mother, but it could also be a father, is having real challenges and is in fact putting their children in danger of one kind or another, then that is something that they need help with. But unfortunately, the tool that we as society have given to child welfare workers is often just remove or don't remove. And we could have so many other tools available. If, for example, you have a situation where you are in a lot of danger and the mother is unable to keep the children safe, maybe the children do need to live somewhere else for now, but do they need to be estranged from their mother? And does she need to feel that she is losing her children? Or could she be given help and she could have still a relationship with her children and they could know that she's not abandoned them, that she loves them, that she's getting help? I've read a number of accounts and heard foster alumni, as they're often referred to. I hope that's an okay term. I don't know.
Foster alumni. This is the first time I've ever heard it. That's funny.
It always makes me feel like you should have a college sweatshirt.
I know.
Foster U alumni. That there can be stress even on the child. A lot of times if a parent is struggling, the child has become a caretaker of some kind. And at a minimum, the child is aware that the parent is struggling. And so if you remove the child, they can have the stress of a caretaker unable to take care of the person that they've been taking care of. The fact that a child should not have to take care of a parent doesn't remove the stress and the distress of not being able to know that that person is okay. and to be able to continue to have some kind of relationship if that's safe and appropriate. So the relational health is a piece that I've really been learning a lot about. We focused originally on the 20,000 youth who age out every year with no family. And so their relational health can oftentimes be in a shambles. And anything we can do to start putting their people back in their life is helpful. But if we move backwards then and go to the kids who are in danger of aging out, connect them either with a loving adoptive family who's going to support their relational health journey or with their own family. We had a teenage girl in Georgia who while we don't serve children directly, we serve social workers who serve children. We try to stay close with our social workers as much as they're willing to hear the stories of how this is working, how we can help better, what we can do. So this comes to us from one of our social workers in Georgia who connected. She had a teenage girl who just, she had been removed as a young child around 5 with her siblings from an unsafe situation. And her siblings went to family, but she was struggling so much with the loss of her mother that she became very difficult for her family to care for. And so as a result, she ended up moving through, I think, more than a dozen foster homes. And the social worker who used our tools received her case. It had been 10 years of disruption and difficulty and behavioral difficulties, and now the girl is a teenager. And the social worker who's using Connect Our Kids tools said, I am going to find what this girl needs, and what she continues to express that she needs is her mother. So I'm going to find her mother and find out what's going on. Maybe she can at least have a relationship with her mother, whose parental rights had been terminated long ago. She found the girl's biological mother living in Virginia. She had cleaned up her life. She was living near her own father and had another couple siblings that she was caring for safely. And so this social worker in Georgia was able to connect her with her mother and arranged for a Christmas Day reunion. She got permission for the mother to come to Georgia and visit her daughter on Christmas Day. She had to pull some extra strings to make that happen, but she was able to do it. And that the young girl that we called Jasmine said it was the best Christmas she ever had. And then the social worker was actually able to, Georgia has a law now that they can reverse a TPR under certain conditions.
Really?
Yes. And so she was able to actually reverse the termination of parental rights 6 months later. And Jasmine has moved to Virginia and is living with her biological mother again.
Wow. I've never heard this kind of story.
It's very rare. Yeah.
It is very rare, but it's possible.
Yes. In some states, yes.
But it's possible. And that's like the thing that most people say, or social workers, or even children, it's like, it's just too much work and it's impossible to do this. So they look at the things that are possible. And you looked at the things that were impossible and were like, could they be? And it has been proven it could be. Yeah.
And, not all stories will end that way. In some cases, just being able to have a relationship will be, I think, really significant to a child who's missing their people. I mean, that imprints on us from our earliest days that we have parents and they're important to us. In some cases, unfortunately, they're not safe, but in other cases, they can become someone that can maintain a relationship if they weren't able to initially. But we have other children. We have a young girl that we call Haley who lives in the Midwest, and the social workers who were using our tools found hundreds of her family members, but just nothing was working out. They said to Haley, nothing is working out. If a teen is able to, sometimes they're able to be involved directly in this work and even engage with the tools directly with their social worker. And they said to Haley, who do you look up to in your life? Who would you like to live with if you could choose? And she said, she was 15. She said, my 5th grade basketball coach, Coach Mark. He was great. I loved that teen. I loved being coached by Coach Mark. And
5th grade, and now she's 15, and all she can remember is.
So it was like 4 years before, and she didn't even remember what elementary school she had gone to at that time. But social workers were able to search through the records, used our tools to find his current phone number and email. They called him. They said, "Hey, do you remember this girl, Haley? Oh yeah, I remember her. She was great. I love that teen." They explained her situation, and can you imagine the phone call? They said, we asked her who mattered in her life of living in dozens of different homes. And she said, you, Mark.
You.
And she said that if she could choose who she would want to live with, she wanted to live with you and your wife. What do you think? They were not looking to adopt. But how do you ignore a call like that? So they started visiting her at the group home she was living in. They got qualified to be foster parents in order to foster her. And then a year later, they finalized adopting her.
Wow.
So he was what we call her people. He wasn't related to her biologically, but he was like family to her. And so we say we build tools and trainings to connect kids with their people, whatever that means for them.
That's why I like the name Connect Our Kids. It's like connect them with their heart, like connect them with where they need to go. Because like I was adopted at 16 And it was really hard trying to maintain this relationship with my parents, especially if I already knew my parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know who to connect with, because ultimately I didn't know who I was going to end up with long term. And my parents were really great at helping me reconnect with my biological parents, to the point where they allowed me to go back to Lebanon when I turned 18.
Mm-hmm.
And because of those relationships, I have been able to see my parents more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because I think a lot of, especially adoptive parents, feel scared to get their kids reconnected with their biological, because they don't want to share the relationship. And or have that be confusing to the child, which is completely understandable. How can you have two moms, two dads? So I think the fact that my parents gave that up for the fact of, just for me to be able to get back into my roots, and they saw that when I came back, I realized all the great things and safety and opportunities they gave me. And I was able to be grateful for that, versus feeling like I was taken away and now I was given to someone else. Now I'm choosing to be part of this family. But I'm also choosing to be part of my biological family.
Yeah.
So I continued going every year to Lebanon in the summer, and I continued going to Christmas, Thanksgiving, and everything with my adoptive parents. And we've developed this relationship where I think is really special, because they don't feel threatened by the other. My biological father feels very grateful for my adoptive parents, because they're able to do what he knew he couldn't.
That's really cool.
So and he would always tell us, like, please say thank you to Amy and Dave, because like deep down he knew that we were being taken care of, we were being loved. And even though he's still in my life, like, it's not like he's not, it's just I had to learn what capacity he could be in my life. Because you're right, like, everyone struggles with something. So, and I blamed, especially my mother, I blamed their limitations. Like, I blamed why they couldn't go past their limitations for the sake of keeping me. And that's a hard statement or question to like come across, versus learning as I got older to learn that people just have limitations. No matter how much they want to expand them, how much they want to be there more, they can't. And allowing them to be there in the ability that they can be in your life is so much more fruitful than just trying to force it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't give up my relationship with Baba and Mama for anything. Like, anything. And that's actually what helped me. My reconnecting to my biological family helped me find my place in my adoptive family.
Isn't that amazing?
Right. And that's why I think Connect Our Kids is amazing, because no matter who you reconnect with, they're a part of you. And when you go into foster care, you lose all parts of you. So getting some of those back is so essential to making that person whole. And you being a part of doing that, saving the world just one child at a time, creating families just one child at a time. And, that may not seem like a lot.
Yeah.
One child at a time. As far as I'm concerned, so we were reconnected and we were placed. And now I have a daughter. My sister has a son. We were adopted with a brother who now has 2 children, and we just went on vacation together. So we just created an entire new generation based off of 2 different families that should have never been connected. And yet they were. And now they get to create a whole new other family. And creating this new family, this new dynamic, I think is what is going to be essential to helping heal that relational trauma, is allowing foster kids and adoptive parents and biological, all of them, the whole point in the situation, because God knows there can be so many different situations, is that it doesn't have to be black and white. It doesn't have to be, okay, taken forever, or all of the different things that they go through. Because, yeah, you can in some way have a relationship, and helping them and having welfare professionals learn how to help them have a kind of relationship where they don't depend on them, where they can't hurt them, but they're still a part of them, and respecting that.
I've spent a lot of time learning from social workers as well, and one that really stuck with me, one comment that really stuck with me was a social worker who was talking about a boy whose father was in prison, and that she had written to the father who was in prison and would be staying there for life, asking if he would be willing to write to the boy, to tell him about himself, about his life, about his choices, about whatever he wanted to share. And she said, she's done this a number of times, but she was talking about one in particular. She said, sometimes a parent in prison realizes that this is one of the last things they can do for their child, is to share their story, their thoughts. And so the father did. A social worker pointed out that whether or not we like the choices that the father has made to end him up in prison, it's still the boy's father.
Exactly, yeah.
And he'll never not be his father. He could have a foster father, an adoptive father, a wonderful people who might become his family, but this man in prison will have always contributed half of the DNA, and that affects the child.
It's still part of his heart.
It's part of his heart. It's part of his identity.
Yeah.
We had another situation in Ohio where, and this really started my journey of understanding the importance of identity and understanding one's roots. A teenage boy who had the opportunity to be adopted by his loving foster family. He loved them. They loved him. They wanted to adopt him. And he was saying no. And it turned out the reason he was saying no, as his social worker really dug into it, was he didn't feel he was worth adopting. His mother was hopeless drug addict. His father was in prison. And so he didn't feel he was bringing anything of value because he saw himself as the product of those two people who had a lot of challenges.
He's the reason why that happened. So he doesn't want to do that to them.
And so he was saying no to the adoption. His social worker said, would you mind if I just did a little research on your family? I want to build out your family tree. He said some version of knock yourself out. They're all a bunch of losers. And so his social worker actually dove in. She used our tools. She linked into ancestry.com and did a lot of traditional family tree work there. Our tools are, you can think of them as ancestry.com for the living.
Yeah.
Ancestry doesn't do living people. And so between those two, she was able to build out a really nice family tree for him. And she said, she showed him what she had found. And in addition to a lot of regular people who were neither in prison nor addicted to drugs, he had two really notable people in his family tree. His great grandmother on his mother's side was a nurse in World War II. She had earned an award for her courageous service. She was near the front lines. He got to see that commendation.
Wow.
From someone he was related to.
Yeah.
That had been honored for her service. And he had, on his father's side, he had a great grandfather who had been such a beloved pastor in the small town community in Ohio where he lived his whole life, that on his death, there were letters to the editor about how much he had affected people's lives. And because of newspapers.com, the boy was able to read those letters about how much his great grandfather had meant to people. And we call this boy Daniel. The social worker said, he read those and he walked out of that room like 3 feet taller than when he walked in. And it affected him so much in terms of his identity and his self-value that he actually started engaging in the conversation about being adopted by people he shared none of that DNA with.
Yeah.
And so that's how much identity and family can affect a person, even if you're not going to live with that family.
Yeah. Identity was like the hardest thing I had to deal with when I first got adopted. And it almost led me to leaving. Because I genuinely didn't know how to be two people. To have a biological mom and dad, and then now an adoptive mom and dad. And now I used to live in Lebanon, speaking Arabic, like having this all different life, to now I'm a Potomac American girl living in the United States. Like, I'm like, when we talk about imposter syndrome, like I was definitely an imposter. And having that like tension within you is so hard. So having tools for professionals to be able to help them be like, you can expand this. Your identity, and that's what I now try to help other people with, is that your identity can be so much bigger than you think. You can be more than you think. Your family could be more than you could ever think. And if you were to allow yourself to think bigger than just the traditional, then even the things, the next generation that you create could be just as beautiful, even more. So helping them to realize, even though those connections hurt, they're still important. And they can decide and have boundaries. And you have professionals that help them decide those things, to help navigate those where, like I had to decide, okay, I can go to my biological dad for this thing, but I can't go to him for that. I learned that the hard way. Yeah. So but then letting that go, really learning to let that go has helped me continue my relationship with him, because I did want him to encompass everything.
Yeah, that's so important.
Yeah.
I have to set the boys tablet.
We've now gone 45 minutes, so yeah. I'll just end this. Sorry. I don't know what time it is.
Okay. It was a great conversation.
So yeah, I really appreciate everything that you have created, everything you have done, all the things you've sacrificed to build this.
Thank you.
And I'm just really excited to walk alongside of you in any way and
Thank you.
help you in any way. So thank you so much for being on my show.
Yeah, of course.
And I hope to have you again.
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, what we're doing is nothing compared to the work that children and families are doing. And, what's the purpose of being here on this earth if we're not going to help each other and help people to be together with the people that they need. So that's what Connect Our Kids is about.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next episode. Bye.